Hello and welcome back to another web development video. My name is Jesus Guzman from GDev Tech. And before we get started on this video, basic requirements are going to be the installations of all the tools that I use for my web development projects, which you can see on my previous web development video that I last published. And here's the link for that. You can also find that in the description. Once you go ahead and get everything all set up and installed on your machine, you can then begin following these instructional videos on setting up a splash page. So without further ado, let's go ahead and begin. All right, now looking at here on my screen, we can see this is the design that we're going to go ahead and implement and build into a splash page. Now we're going to go ahead and first create a repository within Bitbucket. This repository name is going to be called splash-page, but you can name it whatever you want. If you have not seen the Bitbucket, that's also going to be in the description in the installation video that I created. So once you create this repository, then we're going to go ahead and open up the terminal. Basically within this terminal is something that you guys should not shy away from, especially if you're new into web development or any type of development. This is not something that you should be afraid of. I definitely recommend you jumping into the terminal and just having a little bit of fun with it. But what we're going to do is just copy that link that on the top right of the monitor, and we're going to paste this link. And the way we're going to do this is by doing a git clone and pasting that link there. Right now what I'm doing is I'm moving into a directory, which is my E drive, and I'm pasting this repository into my development folder. So if you can see, there's my site development, and I'll just cd into my splash page. Now here is where you'll actually see a master on the right hand side. So let me clear this out. And what master means, it's basically saying this is the main directory where all your files should be for deployment. So what I'm going to do is by doing touch readme.md. Now touch is basically saying create a file called readme. Now right now what you're looking at, and the way that I answer this is by typing in vim and readme.md. This vim is just like a text editor for your command line. So don't worry about it. Let's just go ahead and enter here, and I'm just going to press I to begin typing. This is the keyboard I once you enter vim, and you can begin typing. So I'll just go ahead and do a hashtag. This is a new splash site, and I'll hit enter. I'll do 2 hashtags here, and the hashtags, these are all markdown languages, so I won't get into it now. So I'll just type in let's begin, and the way that I did this is by hitting escape, and then all the way in the bottom left you'll go ahead and enter :WQ and hit enter. This is basically going to say write and save all my changes. So now if I do a git status, you're going to go ahead and see that I have a red readme.md. This is basically saying that I haven't yet added my files into a place where it needs to begin to be tracked. That's why when I did the git commit -m, create a new readme, it's not letting me go ahead and do that because it says I have to add my files first. So I'm going to go ahead and do that by doing a git add readme.md, or I can just do a period, which is going to select all files if you have multiple files that you haven't added. So now if I do a git status, we're going to see new file in green and readme is in green. Now I can go ahead and begin my git commit with my new message by doing -m and typing that in. So if I go ahead and do a git push, this is now going to push that readme file over to my repository, and we can verify that by jumping back into here and going into source And as you can see, that readme.md, it is pushed, and you can see everything that I typed in within Vim. So this is pretty cool. Again, do not be afraid to use the terminal. Let's go ahead and clear this out. And if I'm going too fast, you guys can always pause the video, rewatch it. Any questions about Vim or the terminal, please let me know in the comments below. Right now what I'm doing is creating a new folder, and the way to create a new folder is doing mkdir, which is short for make directory, and we're going to create a directory views. We're also going to create a directory called assets, and I'm going to go ahead and cd into this assets, which means I'm going to go ahead into the folder called assets, and I'm going to create a new directory called css within assets, and I'll do another one also called JS. So now if I do an ls, and ls stands for show me all folders, I can see, or show me all files and folders, I can see I have CSS and my JS file folder. So now if I go ahead and cd, which is enter my JS folder, I'll just create a main.js by doing touch main.js, and you can see that it has been created by doing ls. So if I go ahead and do a cd ... and that means jump back one directory. So now I'm in my assets directory, and I'm gonna cd back into my CSS directory, and within that CSS directory I'll just go ahead and create a new file called main.style. And again, to create a new file, it's touch and then the file name. So now that I have done that, I'll go ahead and create a new directory. Well, I have to actually type in a directory, so I'll do make directory components, and we'll also go ahead and make another directory. Let's see, I'll call it global, and within another directory, and this is all within my assets, I'll go ahead and call them modules. Again, this is all within the assets, so I have not left the assets CSS directory. So now I'm going to create another directory called pages, and let me go ahead and clear that out. And if I do an ls, you can see I have components, global, and modules and pages. Now basically what I did here is I just typed in code main.style, and within here I was able to open Visual Studio Code, and I'm just going to comment all these out. So now if I go ahead and cd to my global directory, I'm going to create a new file, and I'll just do an underscore settings dot style, and that's STYL. And now I can go back into my CSS directory, open back up my main.style by typing in code space main.style, and within here I'll go ahead underneath globals comment, I'm just going to go ahead and type in at import, and it's going to be that settings file. So we're going to do at import global / underscore settings dot style, global / underscore settings dot style. And this is basically going to grab all the text, all that CSS that we're going to write in stylus, and it's going to basically add it onto here. What we're doing is just kind of modularizing everything into separate directories so it doesn't get too cluttered into one file. What I did here is I'm just jumping back two directories. That's why I did .. / two new directories. So now I am in my main directory called splash page, and from this point forward I'm just going to go ahead and start using Visual Studio Code. Again, the terminal, do not be afraid. The reason why I started off with the terminal is because you guys, especially for new people that are getting into this industry, get a little bit comfortable with the terminal. So have fun with it, play around with it, try new commands. If you're on a Linux, there's this one very important command that you should not use, and I won't say it here because I don't want anybody to try it. But let's go ahead and create a new file under components. And what we're gonna go ahead and create, it's by clicking that little plus sign that says new file in Visual Studio Code, and I'll just do an underscore buttons dot style. And components is basically there's this thing that's called dry. It's do not repeat yourself. Basically, this is gonna make sure that we're gonna have everything in components. So a button is gonna be a component because we're gonna always use buttons, and we want to be able to always use these same styles every single time for every single page that we're gonna need a button. So this is gonna be a component that can be used anywhere on any page, and it's gonna have its styles here. So now for our next component is, let's see what can be used every day on a website page. I think we'll do borders dot style, and borders can be used, right? We have round borders, square borders. Maybe we'll do a circle, and I'll get more into that. For global, we'll just go ahead and create a settings dot style, and that's globally, right? So settings dot style is going to be our global. So if we have a font family, we can set it globally in our settings. Modules, it's going to be kind of like what's modular, like a form. It's going to have different syntax within the form, or different elements, and these different elements are going to help us structure. So we're just going to keep it as a module. Hopefully I explained myself pretty well there. Any questions, like I said, leave a comment. And finally, we're just going to create a home.style page in there. So now that we created our directories, we can go ahead and begin doing our views here. And within this views, it's gonna be a simple Jade file. So now we have our Jade file, and we're gonna go ahead and do layouts for Jade, and we're gonna go ahead and do partials for another directory. So we have our layouts, which our layouts is going to be simple. It's just different layouts that we're going to have, but since we only have the splash page, we're just going to have that one layout. So we'll just call it splash.jade. And the thing here that I ran into is that it is no longer called Jade. Let me go ahead and create partials, and these partials are going to be our headers and footers, but it's no longer called .jade, and I didn't find that out until later on within the video when it didn't work for me. So right now, this is kind of like a heads up. Rename your .jade files into .pug if you guys are following along, because it's no longer .jade. It now ends in .pug for different reasons. So go ahead and change that to .pug, and we are done with our folder structure. This is kind of the folder structure that we are going into, and on the next video I will talk a little bit more about Jade. Not too much in depth, but kind of get you going and get you started on the right track for Jade. So going to my next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, any comments, questions, concerns you guys have in regards to the folder structure, or why did I do it with different components and modules and things like that, definitely feel free to leave a comment. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, my name is Jesus from GDev Tech, and see you next time.